Greetings, family, one love. Welcome back to my channel. I think this topic is very important, and so I'm gonna do my best to deliver this particular message as clearly as I can. I've been trying to make this video for maybe a half hour, and every time I make the video, there's something else that I consider, and so here goes again. Okay, now let me just lay this one out like a research paper. Okay, so Nick Blixky was killed in New York recently. Alright, he's one of these new wave drill rappers coming out of New York. Okay, as you know, drill music was originated in Chicago, but drill music actually was exported to other states in America and even as far as the UK and South Africa. Alright, there are drill rappers in South Africa. Alright, so those young entertainers and thinkers who developed the drill rap sound in Chicago really deserve to be in the hip hop Hall of Fame. Alright, simply for the fact that they created a whole new genre in the rap community and were able to be so influential that even around the world, people have picked up on the sound and incorporated that sound into their music. Okay, so simply for that fact, they deserve kudos. Alright, but there's also the dark side of culture. When I say dark side, there are some other implications that come along with a certain style of music. Alright, so while it is creative, it's catchy, it's innovative, the themes of the music and the fact that these themes tend to mirror the narrative in the streets is what is most dangerous about this particular situation. All right, because in Chicago, you can probably call Chicago one of the most violent cities in the world. All right, people routinely settle vendettas. It seems like an uncontrollable spiral of violence in which our brothers are retaliating constantly for beefs which took place maybe like in the 90s or in the 80s. But people have grown up and adopted these beefs for themselves and continue to mete out terror, mete out violence and animosity on the next black man. Okay, it is almost like apartheid in Chicago because if you move out of your district, it is highly likely that somebody will try to jump you or even kill you. Okay, and this culture of basically shaming the next community for losing somebody close to them has continued to basically incense this situation. All right, and I always said it's unfortunate that people who are so creative, people who are so witty. I mean, Chicago people are some of the most funny people I've ever seen. You know, this whole thing, this whole notion of roasting, right? Some of the top tier roasters of all time are people from Chicago. All right, so it's almost like this weird duality in which you have people who have some really good, um, I guess, ways and habits, right? But they also have like a deeply entrenched bitterness for people outside of their community. All right, and I believe that it's unfortunate that it's taking place in the black community, and I believe if these brothers work together, they would be a more powerful force than they are currently in this state of separation. Because if there was like a true unity of people in Chicago, in terms of the music, Chicago would be a really unstoppable force in the music community and in the hip hop industry. These brothers have some of the most innovative song concepts and styles that, outside of Atlanta, outside of New York, outside of the UK, but in particular in Chicago, I've noticed that they have like various innovative styles, you know. But what I really wanted to say in this video before the video gets too long, I'm at 5 minutes. Family, I noticed a trend which is taking place that made me take a second look at the Chicago gang culture. Because in New York, when Nick Blixky was killed, I found out that recently people started to like laugh at the dead homies. They laughing at the dead ops in various communities in New York, right? And we know that that really started in Chicago. This whole idea of smoking on ops, so on and so forth. All of that really started in Chicago, and it seems to me that it is by no coincidence that this is taking place. All right. It seems to me that there are people who are invested in creating this bitterness in the black community. All right, because they know as long as we stay divided, we will not be able to formulate a national plan, or we'll never be able to formulate um, any goals for the collective of black people. Okay, so I noticed that they started to export this culture to New York, right? And I'm not blaming the brothers in Chicago for the ghetto realities that they have to face. Well, who I am blaming is the subliminal persuaders. Alright, we are at the mercy of subliminal persuaders who would like for us to perpetuate a certain type of behavior. Alright, and so in New York, it seems to me that they would wish for this culture of retaliation for gang violence to happen in our community. Alright, because I want you to think about this for a second. Could you imagine if in all 52 states the black community was involved in this culture of killing and retaliation? If every black community in America was just like Chicago, we would be losing people faster than the coronavirus. Because the amount of people who live so closely compacted together, having animosity based on living in another area or based on this culture of retaliation, if this was to take place on a mass scale, it would be almost uncontrollable. So what I'm getting at is, it is by no coincidence that we have Crips and Bloods in other parts of the world, and Crips actually were developed in Los Angeles. Okay, Bloods were developed in Los Angeles, but you have Crips and Bloods in New York. You have Crips and Bloods in other parts of the world. All right, you have BDs and GDs that came out of Chicago. All of a sudden now you have BDs and GDs in New York. It is by no coincidence that this is taking place. We may not be conscious when it is being infiltrated into our community, but it all began somewhere. All right, this whole notion of killing and retaliation, this is being encouraged. This is being brought about through persuasion. All right, and so many of us, it may appear that our people are just um, killing each other senselessly, right? But many people have begun to speculate that in some of these cases, the police actually could be responsible for the killing, and they just blame another rival gang, and they cause like a blood feud that goes on for decades. All right, well, we're not recognizing it because it's happening um, in ways that might not be so obvious, right? But it's no coincidence that they put a lot of money and support behind music that is glorifying killing each other. All right. I believe if we work together, we'd be a much more powerful force as a people. Family, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all these dynamics. Just wanted to vent on this particular situation. Let me know if you agree, you disagree, if you can add some points. Let me know in the comments below. One love.